I knew something was wrong the second my husband's smile didn't reach his eyes. We were sitting in this upscale place downtown. Low lights, soft jazz, the kind of restaurant where the water glasses sparkle like diamonds and everyone talks a little quieter because the prices are loud enough already. The booth seat was too smooth. The air smelled like truffle oil and expensive cologne. Across from me was my husband, Miles, calm, polished, in full executive mode. And beside him, the reason for this whole performance, Mr. Kong, the visiting partner from Seoul. The guy Miles had been chasing for months like his entire career depended on it. I was there for one reason. Dix. Miles had said it earlier in the car like it was normal. Like it didn't sting. Just be sweet tonight, he told me, eyes on the road. Smile. Keep it simple. Simple. So I did what I always did. Sat straight. I smiled when I was supposed to. I nodded at the right moments. I played the role of the supportive wife in a life that was starting to feel more like a set than a home. Then Miles leaned slightly toward Mr. Kong and switched languages. Korean. Smooth as silk. Like flipping a switch. And I swear to you, my heart actually skipped because for a second I thought, oh, okay, this is just business. But then I heard what he said. Miles chuckled softly like he was making a harmless joke. And in Korean he said, she doesn't really understand any of this. She's just here to look presentable. Presentable. I felt my stomach drop so fast it was like my body forgot how to breathe. Mr. Kong gave a polite little smile. Not warm, just polite. The kind of smile people use when they don't want to touch what they've just heard. Miles kept going. Still in Korean, still casual, like he was describing a piece of furniture he'd chosen for the room. She's happiest when she's focused on home stuff. It's easier that way. Less noise. Noise. That's what I was to him. Not a partner. Not a person. Noise. Managed and minimized. I didn't move. I didn't blink too hard. I didn't let my face crack. My hands were wrapped around my water glass, and I didn't even realize how tight my grip was until my fingers started to ache. I loosened them slowly, carefully, like I was trying not to set off an alarm. Because the truth was, Miles thought he was safe. He thought he could say anything in Korean and I'd just sit there like a pretty lampshade. He thought he was speaking in a locked room. But I understood every word. Every single one. The server came back with plates, and for a moment everything looked normal again. The clink of cutlery. Polite nods. The rehearsed laughter. And then Miles shifted, leaned back, and his tone changed. Lower, more confident. He started talking about money. Not budgets. Not savings. Something else. Something that made my skin go cold. He said one sentence in Korean that snapped the whole night into place like a trap closing. I've already started moving things around. Quietly. And right then, while I still had that fixed, obedient smile on my face, I realized I wasn't just hearing disrespect. I was hearing a plan. And whatever he was about to say next wasn't meant for me to survive. Let me tell you something before you start thinking I'm some wide-eyed wife who stumbled into the wrong dinner. I wasn't always quiet. I wasn't always careful. But when you live with a person like Miles long enough, you learn how to survive in the spaces he controls. You learn when to speak, when to soften your voice, when to swallow the sentence that's burning your throat. You start editing yourself in real time. And after a while, you don't even notice you're doing it. That's the part that scares me the most. Because if you asked anyone who knew us, neighbors, co-workers, friends, they would have said we were solid, put together, a power couple, if you like that kind of lie. Miles worked in tech, always climbing, always networking, always acting like his career was a living thing he had to feed, or it would die. I had my own work, had my own brain. I had my own life before I became the woman sitting quietly in a booth while her husband spoke about her like she was furniture. But somewhere along the way, Miles stopped looking at me like a full person. It didn't happen in one dramatic moment. It was slow, sneaky. The way he'd answer questions for me at parties. The way he'd cut in mid-sentence with a smile like, "What she means is." The way he'd joke about me being sweet and simple, and people would laugh, And I'd laugh too because it was easier than turning the room into a courtroom. And then came the little commands dressed up as advice. Wear your hair down. Don't bring up that topic tonight. Just let me handle it. First I told myself it was love, teamwork, a rhythm. But love doesn't make you feel smaller every year. Now the Korean thing, that part wasn't random. I studied Korean years ago. Not because of trends or anything flashy. I did it because I liked the way it sounded, sharp and soft at the same time. I liked the challenge. I liked how it made my brain feel alive. I even took classes back when I was younger, back when I still believed my interests mattered just because they were mine. And then life happened. Marriage happened. The adult version of responsibility happened. That part of me got folded up and put away like something childish I should have outgrown. But last year, after one of those quiet, lonely arguments where Miles didn't yell, he just dismissed me. I found myself sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through my phone, trying to feel like a person again. And I saw an ad for an online Korean course. It hit me like a memory I didn't know I still had. Like touching a scar and realizing it still aches. So I signed up. Secretly. Not because I was doing something wrong. But because I already knew what would happen if Miles found out. He'd smile. He'd tilt his head like he was amused. Korean. Why? Then he'd laugh and add, that's cute. Cute. That word can be a knife when it's used the wrong way. So I kept it to myself. Night after night. Earbuds in. Lessons on low volume. Practicing pronunciation in the kitchen when I was alone. Watching Korean interviews to catch natural pacing and slang. Letting that part of my brain wake up again. It wasn't just a language. It was me taking something back. Miles never noticed. He was too busy staring at screens and chasing validation from men like Mr. Kong. And honestly, I liked that he didn't notice. Made it mine. So when he said, I'll be doing most of the talking in Korean, I didn't correct him. I let him believe I'd sit there like a decorative placeholder. And tonight, at that table, when he called me presentable, when he called me less noise, it all clicked. This wasn't just disrespect. It was strategy. Because a man doesn't talk like that unless he's already decided you don't matter. And as we left the restaurant, walking toward the car under those bright city lights, Miles put his hand lightly on my back, like a performance for anyone watching, and whispered almost tenderly, tomorrow I need you to sign something. It's routine. Just trust me. I looked up at him, still smiling, still playing the role. But inside all I could think was, what exactly did I already agree to? Without even knowing it. The next morning Miles didn't kiss me hello. He kissed the air near my cheek, like the gesture mattered more than I did, and slid a folder across the kitchen counter like he was passing me the salt. Sign this, he said. Not can you. Not when you get a second. Just sign this. The folder was thick. Too thick for routine. And the pen he placed beside it was already uncapped, like he'd been rehearsing the moment. Like my signature was the only scene he needed to film today. I looked down at the papers and felt that same cold from last night crawl up my spine. Is this about the deal? Asked, keeping my voice light. Usual. Wife mode. Miles didn't even blink. Yeah. Standard. Compliance stuff. Just trust me. Trust me. That phrase. Coming from him. After what I heard in Korean, it almost made me laugh. Almost. Instead I picked up the first page. My eyes moved slowly, pretending I was just checking for where to sign. But I was reading everything. Every line. Every word. The way I read terms and conditions when I know someone's trying to slip a trap under my thumb. And then I saw it. Not just one signature line. Multiple. My name printed again and again, like it belonged to him as much as his did. The wording was clean, corporate, polite. But the meaning underneath it was sharp. Spousal consent. Asset restructuring. Release of claim. Transfer of interest. My throat tightened. This wasn't a document. It was a quiet little doorway out of my marriage, one I was being asked to hold open for him. Miles leaned back in the chair, scrolling on his phone like this was boring. like it was already done. "You're taking a while," he said without looking up. "I'm just reading," I replied. He finally looked up then, and the smile he gave me didn't reach his eyes. Again, that same empty look from dinner. "You don't need to read it," he said. "It's legal language. You'll just confuse yourself." Confuse myself. There was again his favorite trick. Make me feel small, then act helpful while he did it. I forced a tiny laugh like he was right. Like I was harmless. "Okay," I said. "I just want to do it right." He softened instantly. 'Cause he liked that version of me. The version that didn't push back. "Good," he said. "Just sign where it's highlighted." Highlighted. Of course it was highlighted. I stared at the yellow lines like they were glowing. Then I did something that surprised even me. Put the pen down. Not dramatically. Not as a statement. Just calmly. Like I'd forgotten what I was doing. "I need coffee first," I said. "My head's a little foggy." Miles sighed like I was a minor inconvenience. "Seriously." "I'll sign," I promised, still sweet. Still controlled. "I just want to feel awake." He rubbed his forehead. "Fine. But don't drag this out. We have a meeting at 2. I nodded and stood up. My legs felt weird, like they belonged to someone else. But I walked to the coffee machine like nothing was wrong, like I wasn't standing on the edge of something that could erase me. While the coffee brewed, I did the smallest thing. The quietest thing. I slid the top page up just enough to see the footer. And there it was. Firm name. Contact number. And a line that made my blood run cold. Prepared at the request of Miles Hart and Associate Una Park. Una. Not Aya. Different name. Same poison. My grip tightened on the mug. Because now I had a name I could chase. And as I turned back toward the counter, Miles was watching me. Still seated, still calm. Like he could feel something shifting in the air. He tapped the pen with one finger and said, almost casually, "By the way, I need you to sign today. No delays." And in that moment I realized something terrifying. He wasn't asking anymore. He was testing how much control he still had. And I was about to find out what he'd do when I didn't give it to him. My phone buzzed at 2:13 a.m., and I swear the sound cut through my sleep like a siren. Not a text. Not a random notification. Bank alert. I blinked hard, half asleep, and read it again. Then again. New payee added. Transfer scheduled. My chest went tight so fast I had to sit up. The room was dark, quiet, and Miles was asleep beside me like a man with nothing to hide. Like his hands weren't quietly rearranging my life while I lay there breathing. I slid out of bed slowly, barefoot, careful not to make the floor creak. My phone felt hot in my hand. I stepped into the hallway and shut the bathroom door behind me, then turned the light on like I was about to do something normal, like brush my teeth and forget I was terrified. But my hands were shaking. I opened the banking app. And there it was. A transfer queued up like a timer. A chunk of money, our money, moving out of the joint account into something I'd never seen before. A new payee name I didn't recognize. Miles had always handled the big stuff. That was the arrangement he kept pushing. He'd framed it like love, like protection, like he was carrying the weight so I didn't have to. But now I could see what it really was. Control. And I felt this sharp, humiliating thought slip into my head. If I hadn't studied Korean, if I hadn't listened, he would have walked me into this blind. I stared at the transfer details until my eyes burned. Then I did the next thing quietly. I screenshot everything. Not one screenshot. All of it. Pay info. The scheduled date. The transaction history. The little details people don't think matter until they're standing in court and someone says, "Do you have proof?" I was collecting proof. That realization alone made my stomach twist. Because what kind of wife turns into an investigator in her own bathroom at 2 a.m.? The kind who's being set up. I closed the app, leaned over the sink, and let out a slow breath like I was trying not to vomit. Then I looked at my reflection. And I didn't look like a victim. I looked like a woman who finally understood the rules of the game she'd been forced into. The next day I played normal so well it scared me. I made breakfast. I asked Miles if he wanted coffee. I listened while he talked about his busy day. Like the last 12 hours hadn't changed my entire understanding of him. He walked around the kitchen confident, casual, wearing that same clean face he wore in public. Like his life was organized, respectable, untouchable. Then he glanced at the folder on the counter and said, "Did you sign it yet?" I smiled like I was a little embarrassed. "Not yet. I told you my head was foggy." His eyes narrowed. Not a full glare. Just a small shift. Like his patience had limits. "Mara," he said, my name but sharpened. "It's not complicated." "I know," I said softly. "I just want to be careful." He chuckled, but it wasn't warm. "Careful about what?" "It's paperwork." "Paperwork." He said it like my caution was cute. Like I was a child playing adult. I nodded, walked over, picked up the folder, and flipped through it like I was finally giving in. Then I said lightly, "Who's Una Park?" Miles froze. Not a dramatic freeze. He recovered quickly, but I saw it. The microsecond where his body betrayed him before his face could catch up. "Who?" he asked too fast. Kept my voice calm. "Curious. Harmless. Una Park. Her name is on the footer." I assumed she was a legal assistant or something. Miles blinked. "Once. Then he laughed. "Oh," he said, waving a hand like it was nothing. "She's just someone in finance who helped route the documents. It's normal." Normal. Everything was normal when he needed me not to push. I tilted my head like I accepted it. "Oh, okay." I just hadn't heard the name before. Miles leaned in slightly, voice lowered like he was trying to keep things gentle. "You don't need to dig into it. It'll stress you out." There it was again. The same strategy. The same control dressed up as care. Smiled. "You're right." And I watched him relax. Because he thought the moment passed. Because he thought he'd managed me again. But as soon as he left the house, I did something I'd never done in our entire marriage. I opened the laptop he always kept password protected. Not by hacking. Not by guessing. By using the one thing Miles never considered. His ego. He'd typed the password in front of me 100 times, thinking I wasn't paying attention. Thinking I didn't notice. Thinking I wasn't capable. My fingers hovered over the keys for half a second. Then I typed it. And the screen unlocked. My pulse thundered in my ears as his email loaded. I told myself I was only going to check one thing. One message. Just enough to confirm what I already felt. Then I saw a subject line that made my hands go cold. Finalizing the transfer before she signs. Before she signs. I stared at the words, barely breathing, because I knew when I clicked it, I wasn't going to be the same person anymore. And the worst part, I could already hear Miles' voice in my head, calm and certain, saying, "She'll never do anything." I clicked the email anyway. The email opened and my whole body went cold. Not metaphorically, like actual chills. The kind that starts at your scalp and drips down your spine in slow, ugly waves. The message wasn't long. It didn't need to be. It was written like someone sending a grocery list. "Miles. Need this finalized before she signs. Keep it clean. Una Park. Understood. Transfer will process once the new payee is confirmed. We should also separate the remaining balances into the holding account. Miles. Good. She won't ask questions if it looks routine. Una. And if she does, Miles. She won't. She won't." He said it like he was talking about the weather. Like he knew me so well he could predict my next breath. My fingers went numb on the trackpad. I stared at the screen like it was a crime scene. 'Cause it was. I scrolled. Slowly. Carefully. More emails. More threads. And then I saw one that made my stomach twist so hard I had to brace my hand against the desk. Subject. Property restructure, spousal release attached. That word hit different when you realize you're the one being released. The email chain was between Miles and someone with a law firm signature. Formal language. Polished. Smiling knives. Spousal release included. Ensure signatures are dated correctly. Recommend completion prior to year-end for tax efficiency. Tax efficiency. Like the goal wasn't to erase me. Like it was just smart planning. I clicked another message. And there it was. A line that made my throat burn. If she hesitates, remind her it protects both of you. So that was the script. The one he'd use on me. The one he probably practiced in his head while looking at me across the kitchen counter like I was a predictable little object. I leaned back, breathing shallow, trying to keep myself quiet because my heart was suddenly loud. Loud enough that I felt like it might wake him up from across the house. But Miles wasn't here. He was at work. And I was staring at the blueprint of my own disappearance. I didn't cry. Not yet. I did something else first. I forwarded the emails to myself. Every thread that mattered. Every attachment. Every mention of before she signs. Every instruction, every date, every name. I took screenshots too because I didn't trust forwarding alone. Saved files. I renamed them with neutral titles like invoice and notes. Because paranoia suddenly felt like survival, not drama. Then I noticed something small. Calendar invite. Buried in his inbox like it was nothing. Lunch, Una P. Location, Hannock Table. Time, tomorrow, 12:30 p.m. Hannock Table. Real place. A real meeting. A real woman. A real schedule. And my brain did that terrible thing it does when it finally connects all the dots at once, like a string pulled tight until it snaps. Last night at dinner he said less noise. This morning he said sign today. And in his inbox he said she won't. It wasn't just that he was moving money. It was that he was moving away. Quietly. Cleanly. Strategically. Like I was something he'd outgrown. My hands started shaking again. And I forced them still by pressing my palms flat on the desk. I stared at the screen and whispered, barely audible. Okay. Not okay like I was fine. Okay like, hear you. See you. Now watch me. I closed his email and logged out, wiping the browser history like I was cleaning fingerprints off glass. I shut the laptop and slid it back exactly where it had been, down to the angle of the lid. Then I just stood there for a second listening to the quiet. Because quiet is never really quiet when you're suddenly aware of how fragile your safety is. And then, the sound that made my blood freeze again. The front door. Key in the lock. Familiar shuffle of shoes. Miles' voice, calling out like everything was normal. Babe. You home? He wasn't supposed to be home. Not for hours. My phone was still in my hand. The evidence was still hot in my inbox. My heart was still pounding like a warning siren. And I realized in one sharp flash. Either he came home early by accident. Or he came home early because he could feel the control slipping. I swallowed hard, forced my face into something calm, and stepped out of the room. Yeah, I called back steady. I'm here. And as I walked toward him, I had one terrifying thought. If he suspects anything, what does a man like Miles do when the simple wife stops being simple? The second I saw Miles standing in the doorway, coat still on, keys still in his hand, I knew this wasn't random. His eyes swept the house like he was checking for signs. Not mess. Not crumbs. He smiled, but it was the kind of smile you give when you're trying to look calm while your brain is doing math. Hey, he said, voice light. I thought I'd surprise you. Surprise. That's one word for it. I walked up to him like everything was normal. Like I wasn't carrying his emails in my pocket like a live wire. You're home early, I said, soft and casual. He shrugged. Meeting got moved. His gaze landed on the kitchen counter. On the folder. On the uncapped pen sitting exactly where he left it. Then he looked at me again. Did you sign? There it was. Not how are you? Not want lunch. Straight to the point. I gave him the same sweet little smile he loved. The one that made him feel like the world was still under his thumb. I was about to, I said. I just wanted to reread it. His jaw tightened for half a second. Mara. You're overthinking. Overthinking. That word had carried our whole marriage. Anytime I got too sharp, too aware, too real. He slapped that label on me like a lid. Overthinking. Emotional. Sensitive. And the worst part. Used to work. He stepped closer, lowered his voice like he was being gentle. This is business. It's boring. It's not personal. Not personal. I stared at him, and for a moment I wanted to laugh. Because how do you tell your wife it's not personal, while you're literally trying to strip her name off the life you built together? But I didn't laugh. I nodded slowly like I believed him. Okay. You should have seen the relief in his face. It flashed, just for a second before he masked it. Because he really thought I was still the old version of me. The version that could be guided like a shopping cart. He walked past me, tossed his keys into the bowl, then opened the fridge like he belonged in my peace. Let's get it done, he said. Quick. Then we can go out later. Reset. You've been tense. Reset. Like the problem was my mood. Like the problem wasn't him quietly building an exit door. I picked up the folder and turned to the signature page, just like he wanted. I even held the pen. Then I paused, tilted my head, and said in my calmest voice, before I sign, can you just explain what release of claim means in normal words? Miles blinked. It's just legal language. I know. But I want to understand. There was a beat of silence where his eyes got colder. Not angry. Not yet. Just alert. He leaned his elbows on the counter like a patient teacher. It means you agree the assets are managed under my umbrella. It's protection. For both of us. Protection. He said the exact word from the emails. My stomach flipped, but my face stayed smooth. That's the thing about betrayal. It teaches you acting skills you never asked for. So I won't have access. I asked like I was innocent. He smiled. You have access to everything you need. Everything you need. Not everything we have. Not everything that's ours. Just what he decided I needed. I nodded again. Okay. One more thing. His eyes narrowed. What? I kept my voice sweet. Why does it need to be today? Miles exhaled through his nose, like he was trying not to get annoyed. Because timing matters. Taxes, compliance, deal structure. And if I don't sign today? I asked softly. The air changed. He stared at me, just long enough for the mask to slip. Then he smiled again, but this time it was sharp. Controlled. You'll sign today, he said like a fact. Not a request. Not a conversation. Fact. Something inside me went perfectly still. I realized in that moment. I wasn't just dealing with a selfish man. I was dealing with a man who was used to winning inside our home. Miles reached out and touched my shoulder. Lightly like affection. But his fingers felt like a warning. Babe, he said almost tender. Don't make this hard. You know I take care of you. Take care of you. That phrase used to feel like love. Now it felt like a cage. I looked up at him and forced a small smile. I'm not trying to make it hard. I just want to feel safe. And there it was, the word that made him relax. If. He patted my shoulder like I was a child. You are safe. Then he glanced at the folder again. Sign. And we'll move on. I lowered my eyes like I was giving in. But instead of signing, I set the pen down gently, like I was being thoughtful. I will, I said. I just need 1 hour. I want to call my mom first and talk through it. It'll calm me down. That word hit him like a speed bump. Miles didn't like outsiders in our business. Not because he was private, because he couldn't control what other people might say to me. He hesitated, and I watched the calculation happen behind his eyes. Finally he said, fine. 1 hour. Then, like he couldn't help himself, he added, and don't tell her details. She'll just get dramatic. He nodded. Of course. Miles walked out of the kitchen, but he didn't go far. He sat in the living room. And he didn't turn the TV on. He just sat there waiting. Listening. Like a guard. I took my phone and walked into the bathroom, closing the door behind me. I turned on the faucet, water running, to cover sound. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the phone. I didn't call my mom. I called the only person I could trust with the truth. My friend Lena, the one friend Miles always called too intense. The one who overreacts. The one he quietly tried to push out of my life by making her seem unreasonable. Lena picked up on the second ring. "Hey, what's going on?" And my voice came out smaller than I wanted, but it was real. "Lena," I whispered. "I think Miles is trying to take everything." There was a silence. Then her voice changed completely. "Where are you right now?" "In the bathroom," I said. "He's home. He's waiting." "Do you have proof?" she asked. No drama. No panic. Just sharp focus. "Yes," I said. "Emails. Transfers." "Good," she replied. "Listen to me. Do not sign anything. Not one line. I'm coming to get you." My heart slammed against my ribs. "I can't just." "You can," she cut in. "Because if he's doing this, it means he's already decided you don't exist in his future. And you don't negotiate with someone who's erasing you." I swallowed hard. Then I heard it. Soft knock on the bathroom door. Miles' voice too calm. "Who are you talking to?" My blood turned to ice. I stared at the door like it was about to open by force. I lowered my voice until it was barely sound. "Lena, he's at the door." Lena didn't hesitate. "Mara, listen. Hang up. Text me your location. And if he tries to make you sign, leave. Even if you have to walk out with nothing but your phone." Another knock. Harder. "Babe," Miles said, still calm. "Open the door." I ended the call. My hands moved fast. Too fast. I texted Lena the address and then shoved my phone in my pocket like I was hiding contraband. Then I opened the door. "For your records," he repeated, like I'd asked to borrow his kidney. I nodded slowly. "It's not personal. I want to feel safe." I watched him process it. The way his eyes tightened. The way his mouth relaxed into that same controlled smile he uses when he's irritated but trying not to show it. "We have copies," he said. "I haven't seen them," I replied. "And if it's routine, then it shouldn't be a big deal." There was a long beat where the kitchen felt too quiet. Even the refrigerator hum sounded loud. Then Miles exhaled and said, "Fine. I'll have my office send you a copy after I sign. After he gets what he wants." I smiled like that was reasonable. "No. I need it before. Just one PDF. That's all." His jaw flexed once. "Why are you acting like this?" he asked, soft like concern. Like he wasn't a man cornering his wife into signing away her rights. "I'm not," I said. "I'm just being careful." He stared at me like he was recalculating. Then he did something that made my stomach twist. He stepped closer and lowered his voice, like he was being intimate. Like we were on the same team. "Mara," he said, "you're not built for this. Paperwork, legal stuff, makes you spiral. Just let me handle it like I always do." There it was. The insult wrapped in affection. The cage painted like protection. I held his gaze and kept my voice soft. "If I'm not built for it, then I shouldn't be signing it." His smile froze. I could see the flicker in his eyes. Anger trying to rise, then being shoved down because anger would reveal too much. He needed me calm. He needed me compliant. So he switched tactics. "Okay," he said lightly. "We'll go to my office. There's a printer there. You'll get your copy. Then you'll sign. Then we'll go out." My pulse jumped, but I didn't show it. Going to his office meant cameras, people, public space. It was safer than being alone with him in some dim restaurant where he could talk me in circles. So I nodded. "That works." Miles relaxed a little, like he'd just guided a stubborn child back to the right path. "Good," he said. "Go get ready. We're leaving in 10 minutes. My brain went sharp. Rest. I walked to the bedroom, calm on the outside, but inside I was counting. Phone. Wallet. Charger. Sweater. I didn't pack a suitcase. I didn't grab a dramatic bag. I just slipped the essentials into a small tote like I was going to run errands. Because here's the truth. When you start waking up inside a life that's been controlled, You don't always get a clean exit. Sometimes you get crumbs. Sometimes you get windows that open for 5 seconds. And you take them. I picked up my phone and typed a text to Lena with hands that barely shook now, because fear had turned into focus. He's taking me to his office. If I text now, call police. If I text green, meet me outside. I stared at the message before sending it. Then I hit send. A second later, another thought hit me like ice water. What if Miles checks my phone? So I deleted the thread. Not because I didn't trust Lena. Because I trusted Miles to do anything. I walked back into the hallway and heard his voice. He was on a call, speaking in that calm executive tone. Yeah, we're handling it today, he said. No, she won't delay. She won't. Again. I stepped into the living room, and he ended the call the second he saw me, like he didn't want me catching a single extra word. Ready? He asked. He nodded. Yeah. He picked up the folder, slid it under his arm, and reached for my coat with a casualness that felt wrong. Like he was playing husband. Like he wanted the scene to look normal if anyone saw. Then he held the front door open for me. After you, he said. My chest tightened. Because you know what's scary. Politeness. The way people think danger always looks like shouting, fists, chaos. Sometimes it looks like a man holding the door for his wife with a soft smile, while he's quietly planning to erase her. I stepped outside. Cold air slapped my face, and for a second it cleared my head. The street was normal. Cars passing. A dog barking down the block. Life continuing like mine wasn't cracking open. Miles locked the door behind us. Click. That sound, small, ordinary, hit me like a warning bell. We walked to the car, and Miles opened the passenger door for me like a gentleman. Got in. The leather seat was cold. The car smelled like his cologne. Familiar. Safe feeling. And then he closed the door. Bunk. I reached for the handle without thinking. Just a reflex, just to test my own nerves. My stomach flipped. Miles walked around to the driver's side, calm as ever, slid into his seat, and started the engine like this was the most normal afternoon in the world. I forced my voice steady. Did you lock the doors? He glanced at me and smiled. Habit, he said. City's not safe. Not safe. I almost laughed. Almost. Then he put the car in drive and pulled away from the curb. But we didn't head toward downtown. We didn't head toward his office. We turned the other way. Toward the edge of town. My throat went dry. I watched the familiar streets fall behind us, replaced by longer roads, fewer people, fewer stoplights. I kept my tone light like I was just curious. Where are we going? Miles didn't look at me. His eyes stayed on the road. There's a notary I trust, he said calmly. Quicker than the office. Less interruption. Interruption. My fingers curled into my palm. And then he added like it was nothing, like he was doing me a favor. No copies. No delays. We're finishing this today. I stared at his profile, the calm set of his jaw, the steady hands on the wheel. And all I could think was, he didn't come home early to surprise me. He came home early to control the timing. My phone was in my bag. My heart was pounding. I forced myself to breathe and slid my hand toward the zipper. Slow, casual, hidden. Because I needed to send one word to Lena. Just one. And I needed to do it before Miles noticed I was no longer simple. Before he realized I wasn't the decoration anymore. My phone screen lit up inside my bag like a tiny pulse of light, and I swear I felt it through the fabric. Miles had both hands on the wheel, eyes forward, calm, too calm. The kind of calm that makes you realize this isn't an argument. It's an operation. He wasn't driving me somewhere. He was delivering me. I kept my face neutral and my voice light, like I was still playing the role he scripted for me. A notary. I repeated, soft little laugh. Since when do you have a favorite notary? Miles didn't smile back. Since I started doing things efficiently. Efficiently. Like I was paperwork. Like I was a task he wanted to complete before lunch. We drove past the last familiar coffee shop, past the last decent intersection, until the streets started looking emptier. Fewer cars. Fewer people. The kind of roads where no one would hear you even if you screamed. I didn't scream. I didn't panic. I did something colder. I breathed in slowly and reached into my tote like I was adjusting a lip balm or looking for a tissue. I moved like a bored passenger, not a woman trying to survive. My fingers found my phone. I kept it low near my thigh, hidden by the tote's edge. I didn't even look down at first. I just slid my thumb over the screen until it woke up. Miles glanced over, quick, automatic, like he was checking my hands. I smiled at him. Me. I'm just gonna check the time. He nodded once, eyes back to the road. That was my opening. I looked down for half a second, just long enough to do it. Text Lena. One word. Green. My thumb hovered for a heartbeat. Then I hit send. And immediately, my entire body went hot and cold at the same time. Because once you hit send, you can't pretend you're not fighting back anymore. I locked the screen, slid the phone back into my tote, and forced my breathing to stay slow. Miles kept driving. Then his phone buzzed in the cup holder. Message. He didn't pick it up, but I saw his jaw tighten slightly. Like he was receiving updates. Like this was coordinated. A few minutes later, we pulled into a small commercial strip I'd never been to. Not a proper office building. No corporate lobby. No security desk. Just a row of dull storefronts and a parking lot that felt too open and too quiet. Miles parked in a spot far from the entrance. Of course he did. He killed the engine and turned to me with that same controlled smile. See. Easy. I swallowed, kept my voice steady. What's the name of the place? He pointed to a sign like it was nothing. Summit Signing Services. The doors were tinted. The windows were tinted. Nothing inside was visible. My skin prickled. Miles got out first and came around to open my door like a gentleman. Like the car hadn't been locked. Like he wasn't managing the optics even when no one was watching. I stepped out and the cold air hit my face again, sharp enough to keep me awake. Inside it smelled like cheap air freshener and stale coffee. Fluorescent lighting. Beige walls. A waiting room that looked like it had never seen a real client. A woman behind the desk looked up. Perfect hair. Clean blazer. Eyes. And the second I saw her, everything in my brain snapped into place. Because I'd seen her name a dozen times in Miles' inbox. She stood, smiled politely and said, Miles. Not Mr. Hart. Not sir. Just Miles. Then she glanced at me and smiled like a blade covered in velvet. And you must be Mara. My blood went ice cold. Miles didn't introduce her. He didn't explain. He just said casually, This is Una. She's helping us move things along. Move things along. He meant, move me out of the way. Una gestured toward a small conference room. Right this way. We'll make it quick. The conference room was too clean. Too prepared. A folder already on the table. Pen already waiting. Like they'd been expecting me the way you expect a delivery. Miles pulled out a chair for me. Sit. Sat. Una slid the papers toward me and spoke in the calm, rehearsed tone of someone who's done this 100 times. Just sign where it's marked. Marked. Highlighted. Same yellow lines. My throat tightened, but my voice came out steady. Before I sign, I want to read the whole thing. Miles' smile flickered. We don't have time for that. Una's eyes stayed on me. It's standard documentation. I flipped the first page anyway. And that's when they made their mistake. Miles turned slightly toward Una, lowered his voice, and spoke in Korean like I wasn't even in the room. She's stalling. Just keep it moving. She won't understand the details. Una replied in Korean, smooth and confident. Then don't let her feel like she has a choice. The air in my lungs stopped. Not because I didn't expect cruelty, because I did. But because hearing them say it out loud like I was a thing to manage. It made something in me snap into clarity. I lifted my eyes slowly. I looked at Miles. I looked at Una. And in calm, perfect Korean I said, I understand every detail. So maybe you should both choose your next words carefully. Miles' face drained so fast it was almost unreal. Yuna's smile vanished like it had never existed. And for the first time in a long time, Miles looked at me like he was seeing a stranger. Then he leaned in, voice low, dangerous soft, and said, "What else do you know?" The room went so quiet after I spoke Korean that I could hear the cheap wall clock ticking like it was counting down to something. Miles stared at me like I'd just pulled a mask off my own face. Yuna didn't move, didn't blink, but her hand tightened around the edge of the folder, like she was suddenly aware this wasn't going to be quick anymore. Miles leaned closer, voice low, that dangerous soft tone again. "What else do you know?" And here's the weird thing. I thought I'd feel scared. I thought my voice would shake. I thought I'd crumble. But I didn't. Because for the first time in a long time I wasn't guessing. I wasn't doubting myself. I wasn't asking, am I being dramatic? Am I overthinking? Well, he knew. So I looked at him, straight in the eyes, and I said calmly in English this time so there was zero confusion. "I know you've been moving money. I know you've been preparing documents for me to sign without understanding. And I know you called me presentable like I was a prop." Miles' jaw tightened. "Mara." "No," I cut in. Not loud, just firm. "You don't get to Mara me right now." Yuna cleared her throat, trying to regain control. "This is a simple signing appointment. If you're uncomfortable, we can stop," I said. "Right now." I pushed the papers back across the table like they were contaminated. Miles' eyes flashed. "Don't do this here." "Here," I repeated, almost laughing. "You mean the place you brought me so I'd feel cornered?" His face changed for half a second, just enough to confirm it. Then he tried the old tactic. The one that used to work. He softened his voice. He widened his eyes slightly. Concern mode. "Babe, you're spiraling. You heard a couple things you misunderstood." "I didn't misunderstand," I said quietly. "You misunderstood me." That hit him. Hard. I saw it land. Yuna shifted in her chair, eyes darting toward the door like she suddenly wanted distance from the mess she helped create. And in that moment I realized something important. She wasn't brave. She was comfortable. There's a difference. Miles reached for the pen like he could still force the script forward. "We're not leaving until this is done." And I felt my chest tighten because there it was. The truth of him. The part he hid behind charm. I slid my phone out of my tote and set it on the table, screen up. Miles' eyes dropped to it. "Smile," I said. "Because I'm recording." Yuna went still. Miles hissed. "Turn that off." "No," I said. "You wanted quiet. You wanted no interruptions. You wanted me alone and confused. You don't get that anymore." His hand twitched like he wanted to grab the phone. But he didn't. Not with Yuna there. Not with the possibility of witnesses. He was always thinking about how things looked. "Fine," he muttered, leaning back. "What do you want?" I stared at him for a long second. And what I wanted wasn't revenge. Not yet. What I wanted was space. Safety. "I want to leave," I said. "Now." Miles laughed, but it came out sharp. "And go where?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. New message. From Lena. "I'm outside." My whole body unclenched in one silent rush. Like oxygen finally reached parts of me that had been suffocating for years. I stood up slowly, not rushing, not panicking. Picked up my tote. I looked at Yuna, then back at Miles. "I'm done here," I said. Miles stood too fast. "Sit down." My heart thumped once, heavy. But my voice stayed steady. "Touch me," I said. "And we'll make this the loudest mistake you've ever made." He froze. 'Cause he knew I meant it. I walked toward the door. Miles followed me, close enough that I could feel him behind me. His presence like pressure on my neck. Yuna stayed in the room, suddenly very interested in being innocent. When I stepped into the lobby, the receptionist looked up, eyes flicking between us like she could sense the tension but didn't want it near her paycheck. Miles leaned in, whispering, "You're ruining everything." I stopped walking and turned to him. You ruined it, I said softly. I'm just refusing to disappear quietly. Then I pushed the front door open. And there Lena was, standing near her car, jaw tight, eyes sharp, like she'd been ready to throw her whole body between me and danger if she had to. The second she saw Miles, she took one step forward. Protective. Grounded. Miles' face changed again. He hated Lena because Lena saw him too clearly. Lena couldn't be managed. Lena didn't scream. She didn't cause a scene. She simply said, loud enough for the receptionist to hear through the glass, "Mara, are you okay? Did he try to make you sign something?" Miles' eyes widened just slightly. Because now there were witnesses. Now there were words in the air that couldn't be pulled back. I walked straight to Lena. My hands were shaking now, not from fear, more like adrenaline finally crashing. "I'm okay," I said. Then I looked at Miles over Lena's shoulder. "But I won't be if I stay near you." Miles stepped closer, voice low. "Get in the car. We're going home." I didn't move. Lena didn't move. And in a calm voice that felt like iron, Lena said, "She's not going anywhere with you." Miles' eyes flicked to me. One last attempt to control with a look. "You're making a mistake," he said. And I surprised myself by smiling. Not sweet. Not obedient. Just real. "No," I said. "I'm finally correcting one." We left. Not in a dramatic movie sprint. Just a steady walk to Lena's car, like I was choosing my next breath on purpose. In the days that followed, everything got ugly in the way betrayal always does when it gets exposed to daylight. I didn't do it alone. Lena helped me sit with a lawyer the very next morning. I brought the screenshots, the forwarded emails, the document footers, the bank alerts, every quiet little piece of proof Miles thought I'd never collect. And when Miles realized I wasn't signing, he tried every version of himself. The charming one, the angry one, the victim, the "I'm sorry I was stressed," the "you're overreacting," the "if you do this, you'll regret it." But here's what changed. I stopped arguing with his feelings. I stopped trying to make him understand. I started protecting myself like I mattered. The lawyer filed the right paperwork. We locked down accounts where we could. We documented everything. And the most shocking part. Once I stepped into that process, I learned how many women walk around thinking they're alone in this, until someone finally says, "No, you're not crazy. This is real. And you have options." Miles didn't win the way he thought he would. And I didn't lose everything the way he promised. What I lost was the illusion. The version of him I kept hoping existed under the control and the lies. What I gained was heavier. My voice. My clarity. My name spoken with respect again, even if I had to fight for it. And if you're listening to this thinking, I've felt that weird cold drop in my stomach. I've felt that quiet fear. I've been told I'm overthinking. Please hear me. That feeling is not weakness. It's your mind trying to save you before your life gets rewritten without your consent. I'm not telling you to panic. I'm telling you to pay attention. Because the moment you start seeing clearly, that's the moment you become dangerous to the people who benefit from you being small. And that's exactly when your real life begins. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you've lived through something similar, share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.